Hello everyone, this is your teacher Julian Marin, and today we're going to be reviewing Martes de Prueba number 4 for the ninth grade in 2026. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you find it educational and interesting. The first thing we're going to do is to project. Okay, so let me share so you can see the exercise, the activity. So the first thing we always do is try to identify the kind of activity or exercise we have to develop, what kind of questions we have, what is the nature of the exercise. Because yes, we do have a variety of options, some of them easier than others. So these elements are crucial for increasing our possibilities and increasing the possibilities of have good results. In this case, what we identify is that we have a long text, right? So of course, they're going to be evaluating our reading comprehension, but also more specifically in this case, our grammar and our lexicon, okay? The use of language and the semantics, the richness of our vocabulary, right? So strategically, what I suggest, and this is what I do, different from other exercises where we find long texts, I don't read the whole text first because it's not about skimming and scanning reading comprehension. It is reading comprehension, but it's more about understanding what could be the best word according to the context, according to a sentence. Over here, let me show you. You may find that you have, different from other exercises, you will find options A, B, C, and D. Normally, we find A, B, and C. This is intentional. So they want to increase the level of difficulty, right? And also, you may find as well that when you evaluate the options, all of them could work from a grammatical perspective and also probably from a syntactic perspective. So, what is the other criterion you need to consider? That is semantics. That is semantics. What is the best word that describes the idea or projects the idea that the writer wants to project? So let's start. As I said, my strategy wouldn't be to read the whole text for time administration. And strategically, I will essentially start analyzing the sentences and then on the run get familiar with the context. What are we talking about? What is the timing? Also important. What is the time we're talking about? Past events. We're using passive voice. We're using simple past. We're using the structure is also very important because sometimes the questions will require that information. Okay, so let's start over here. I adapted. If you compare with the original booklet, you will see that the setting of the text and the questions is different. That is because I just adapted it so we could visualize the sentences and the paragraphs and also the questions and the possible answers better because we don't really have questions. We have options for answering or choosing the words. So let's start. We got over here paragraph 1, paragraph 2, and then right there we have questions 21 and 22. So let's start with these two. Where have the containers options? Where have the containers departed, escaped, gone, or moved? Where have they gone? This is a very common expression that we use in many contexts. Using the other ones would be grammatically and syntactically correct, but not the most appropriate options. So that is why I select this. And then we continue. So far, we have heard containers and they have gone somewhere, but we don't know pretty much about what we're talking. So then we continue. contextualizing ourselves with the topic. This is also important because when you start understanding what are we talking about, could be a story, then you start becoming more interested, and interest triggers attention, and attention triggers understanding. Many are in inland depots, others are piled up in cargo ports, and the rest are in board vessels, especially in trans-Pacific lines. So with this, we have a very good idea what we're talking about. So there are containers, inland depots, cargo ports, on board vessels, trans-Pacific lines. So over here, we're talking about cargo movement around the oceans, right? And arriving in ports. Let's continue. This is for 22. To grasp why the containers are where, and then we need to complete that phrase. They are where that's the one I suggest. They are, right? So to finish that sentence here, yeah, this is a comma, I know, but essentially we're finishing this idea here. Let's evaluate the options. To grasp why the containers are, this is key, where, and then we finish, them are, you are, him are. Containers is plural, so we cancel these two. Are, right, where they are. Okay, even when you listen to it, that is the one that sounds better, and that is because of a good reason. Because when you are associating what you hear, right, with what you read and all that, somehow your memory is working and suggesting which could be the best options, right? So that is what happens here, and this is why I'm suggesting. It's important to first understand the domino effect that has led to the present situation. Let's start at the beginning. So there we finish with this paragraph, and then we will continue, right, trying to find the other answers along with the text. So let's see. Over here, this looks like the beginning of a paragraph. It doesn't end here. You don't see a point. So it will continue. So we will have to move. But let's start so we can get the context. As the pandemic, over here we got more context. Let's remember we went through a pandemic, 2020, right? A big impact in the world. So that is more context. As the pandemic spread out from its Asian epicenter, countries implemented lockdowns, halting economic movement and production. That is a very important idea, very relevant. Now we need to prepare to move because, yeah, we need to move to the next, let's say, column. Okay, so I'm going to move this one too, so we can have visual. Many factories, and we continue right here. So it says many factories, let's visualize 23 and 24. Many factories, let's say, stay here. Many factories closed temporarily, causing large numbers of containers to be stopped at ports. To stabilize costs and the erosion of ocean rates, carriers reduced the number of, okay, we find 23. The number of what? So we should focus here and here. This is the sentence. Focus on the sentence. Carriers reduce the number of vessels, catamarans, canoes, and boats. Over here, we got 4 options that describe ships, ways or means of transportation on the sea or in the water. What is the difference? It's the same category, only that they have different characteristics. So what is the best one? Talking about cargo, like interoceanic cargo movement, the the only or the best option, I will say, yeah, it's not possible to carry a container in a catamaran, in a canoe, or in a regular boat. It's not possible. Only these big ships that are also known as vessels are the ones, okay? So that's why I choose vessel for 23. Not only did this put the brakes on import and export, but it also meant empty containers were not picked up. Okay, so we finished with that paragraph, also with more knowledge, with more information, with more understanding and more context of what is it that we are reading, but still focusing on the exercise. Remember, each question will increase your results, so each question matters and all of them are important. Now let's continue with 24. Then, and then over here, you have this idea with a whole paragraph, one question. So crucial, starting. Starting is more difficult because you lack context in the paragraph, but not impossible. Let's see the options. Then a scenario develops. So we're talking about the scenario. And over here we got options: only, unique, solo, and isolated. Isolated. So we're looking for an adjective, okay? An adjective that describes the scenario that developed. Only, unique, solo, and isolated, somehow they're similar, right? In the meaning. But the best option is unique. A unique scenario developed. Asia, being the first hit by the pandemic, was also the first to recover. So, while China resumed exports earlier than the rest of the world, other nations were, still are at the moment, dealing with restrictions, a reduced workforce, and minimal production. This is the option, okay? I suggested because of the characteristics and because of the idea that is being trying to be communicated. But over here, I would like to explain, and still are. That is the time in which the text was written. Let's remember that normally in ICFES, saber, Prueba saber, and Martes de Prueba, in the English section and maybe other sections, texts are taken from real text, from magazines, newspapers, from the time. So they could be used, but of course we're talking about past events because now we are in 2026 and the pandemic has been gone for quite some time, okay? So over here we got questions 23 and 24. So since we need to move, we're just going to erase this and we're going to scroll down to see the final paragraph. It's a long one with the final question too. A consequence of this is that almost all the remaining containers in Asia headed out to Europe and North America. But those containers, we have found 25, will not come back quickly. Okay? Do not come back quickly, did not come back quickly, or quickly enough. So we got the sentence here. This is the one we need. This is the idea we need to complete. So, will not come back quickly. We're talking about those containers. Will not, no, because we're not It's not a good option. I will immediately choose did not come back quickly. Why did? Because this verb here is come. And since we're talking past, when we have did here, it means that the next verb remains in present. That is actually an indicator that here we use did. Why? Because in the rest of the text, we're talking about simple past. You see? Simple past. We're telling a story in simple past, so that is why I choose did not. And now let's see how it sounds. But those containers did not come back quickly enough. Massive workforce disruptions due to coronavirus restrictions in North America affected not only ports but cargo depots across the country, as well as inland transport lines. Without adequate staffing, containers started to pile up. As borders tightened, customs became more complicated to clear as well, worsening congestions. In addition, there were rapid shifts in trade lane demands that were challenging for carriers to adapt to. So over here, let me give you a couple of examples to confirm this answer 25. Headed to Europe. This is simple past. But containers came back. Okay, massive workers disruptions due to coronavirus restrictions in North America affected simple past. Not only the ports cars across the country as well as inland transport lines. Without adequate staffing, containers started to pile up. So this confirms what I was telling you. Since the whole paragraph and the whole text has been told or written in a very specific timing, talking about the verb timings, right? So consistency is also an element we need to consider when answering the questions. So that is why if we have been in simple past, we want to answer also or use the simple past option. Okay? Did not. So with that, we have finished reviewing Martes de Prueba number 4 for 9th grade in the year 2026. Again, I thank you very much for watching. I will invite you please to subscribe to the channel, click on like, share, and promote so other people can benefit from these exercises. Thank you very much. I hope to see you in the future.